Did First African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia, reach their conclusions about the pews independently of the good doctor? Find out in a moment. What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy, Faithful to God, and we are here to say good morning to you who are watching us right now in the East Coast or wherever you are in the world. And I am joined today by my friend Abu. Say what's up to the audience, Abu.
Good morning to everyone from New York City, from Manhattan.
So, my good friend Abu, I gave people a little bit of an introduction. Let's actually discuss what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and
Let's
let
give
people
a
know.
sort of preliminary overview if we can. If you could, we'll pull up. I think we have a little slide that covers that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to be discussing today, as Faithful said right at the beginning before the countdown started, the question that we're going to explore in this question is whether the website of First African Baptist Church reached their current position on the pews independently of people like the good doctor, our gentle friend, Kelly Richardson over at the We Woke Now channel, as that was the impression that some tried to give, that somehow they had their own little private, their meetings with private scholars, their own scholars that they consulted privately, and they're like an independent witness to these conclusions. So that's what we're going to explore.
Absolutely. Well, I think we should just jump right into it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get right into it. Let's go right for it, man. So if you could, let's actually start by showing the overview on the pews in Savannah for the audience who may
Mm-hmm.
be unfamiliar with the subject. There are a lot of people out there who are probably hearing this subject for the first time and they probably have no idea what we're talking about. So let's give people a bit of an overview of everything. All right. So here is the overview. So
Right.
let's
So
actually
just as a bit of background before we start reading through the overview, the general background point is that there is a church in Savannah, Georgia. For those who don't know, it's called First African Baptist Church. And on the internet, there are a number of people who have claimed that cursive Hebrew appears on the pews, and some people conflate this language claim with lineage claims. They feel this somehow proves some sort of broad Israelite position. I don't see it, but whatever the case, that has been a discussion for on social media. I've seen it on the internet for close to a decade. I first wrote about it in 2016. So
and
yeah,
and, and if I could, and by some people, more specifically Hebrew Israelites that have engaged us in conversations about various topics.
mhm.
From time to time, this has come up. The Georgia pews, the pews in First African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia, were being used. So I'll go ahead and read the following, and it says, over the decades, a number of claims have been made about the markings on the pews of First African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia, such as African scribble scrabble, tribal markings, Hebrew, Arabic, and
Adinkra.
Andinkra, Ge'ez, Insibidi, etc. The church's official website likewise has gone through shifts regarding what it claims appears on the pews, at one point claiming cursive Hebrew, then replacing that with Arabic, and more recently removing Arabic to put Hebrew, Amharic, and quote unquote ancient Aramaic from the 1800s.
Mhm.
And the third point is the proponents of Hebrew on the pews have tried to pretend like the website returning to endorsing Hebrew is a major victory, but they revealed their own methodological inconsistencies. And the fourth point, We long suspected certain individuals influenced the current version of the site, but did not have evidence until now.
All right.
Right? And so, and for the record, just so we're clear about this, for years, Hebrew Israelites were making claims about the Pews and First African Baptist Church. They claimed that there was cursive Hebrew on there. We've covered this video extensively on my channel. So if you go to the Georgia Pews playlist on this channel, you'll have everything that you'll need, like in terms of exhaustively covering the subject over the years.
Yes, indeed.
And so for the record, you first started entertaining these conversations in 2019.
2016. I started doing it in video in 2019, but first time I wrote about it was in Vocab's forum way back in 2016, if I recall correctly, summer of 2016. Yeah. So it's been 9 years and change.
9 years.
9.5 years that I've been looking into this. Yeah.
But as far as the individual who we'll be covering today, Kelly Richardson.
Yeah, 2019. I first interacted with one of his videos in 2019, late 2019. I think it was October of 2019.
Yeah, and it was his video from 2018 in which he was complaining about the church's website, if I recall correctly.
Which brings us to that third point. So as you get the first clip ready, I'm going to say is regarding methodological inconsistencies. People would pretend like, oh, look, the website or a DVD associated with the website or a video associated with the website says Hebrew, therefore it's Hebrew. Boom, we're done. But then in 2018, the website changed to claiming Arabic, and Kelly, and this is going to come up in the clip that you're about to put up. The good doctor was saying basically that just because the website claims Arabic doesn't mean that we need to defer to the website, right? Even the church and its website and whoever's writing, whatever webmaster is writing the text for the church's website, even they have to prove their claims. And I agreed with Kelly on this way back in 2019 that if the church is going to claim Arabic or anything else, they themselves need to demonstrate that. But go ahead.
So those writings on those pews is a Shemitic language, is not Arabic, because if it was so, then how come they still haven't translated? Was able to read it. It's not Aramaic, because if it was Aramaic, whether it's modern or ancient or whatever, how come they still haven't been able to translate it?
Correct.
But and again, if they're going to say that it's Arabic, then read it in Arabic. If you're going to say that it's Aramaic, then read it in Aramaic. If you're going to say whatever, read it to me. Read it to me. Because if that's the case, then they'll be able to read it. Who made the decision if you cannot read it? If it's Aramaic, you should be able to read it, right?
All right. Thank you very much. So what I was going to say was, that was important because it shows a position that Kelly took, that the good doctor took way back in 2019, which is a position I agree with, that we're not required to simply defer to the website. If the website makes a claim, that doesn't mean we have to defer to it, right?
Right.
And so he applied that to Arabic, and humorously, he even applied it to Aramaic back then. But the thing is, then when the website changed, and this is where the second clip is going to come in, suddenly they were pretending like that's a mic drop. All of a sudden, the website taking a position almost as if to say it should just be taken on faith. Like, boom, the website said it. Like, as you'll see, Sista E will say, oops, like, got him. So if we could, let's jump into
and before we play that clip, just one more time to reiterate to the audience, those who may be hearing this for the first time. So around 2018, the website of First African Baptist Church read that it was cursive Arabic, right? It was Arabic.
West African Arabic, I think is the way they put it. So
that's what it was. It was but I'm saying the website was listing it as Arabic in the West African script. That's what it was.
Yes, correct.
And our friend, the good doctor, was complaining about that. And then the website changed in 2020 when there was in 2022,
I think.
Or 2022, that's what it was. When there was a shift with the administration, right? With the right. So, but we'll get into that. Into that.
So, basically, the gist is that when they were claiming Arabic, Kelly himself was saying that they don't have to that even the website has to prove their claim. They should read what they're claiming appears on the pews. That's the issue, right? He was saying that for Arabic, and then that changes. Look at what happens when the website changes to Hebrew, Amharic, Aramaic. Now let's see their new stance, and that's where methodological inconsistencies come in.
I haven't spiked the ball like many of these guys were doing. I could have easily come back on and just say, hey, look at what the Church of Savannah said about the pews.
Oops.
People can go back to that again.
Like many of these guys were doing, I could have easily come back on and just say, hey, look at what the Church of Savannah said about the pews.
Oops.
Next. All right. So, what we see there, the reason why we wanted to show those clips is to show that transition, to say that when the website was claiming Arabic, Kelly was basically taking the position that even the website and the church needs to demonstrate their claims. We can't be expected to just take the church's website's claim on faith. Like if the website says Arabic, that doesn't mean Arabic appears on the pews. And I agree with Kelly. Even the website has to present an argument for the claims they're making. But then when the website changed to something he liked, all of a sudden it was presented as if it was a mic drop. Like now all of a sudden people are expected to just defer to the website all of a sudden, you know? And that's the methodological inconsistencies that was alluded to in our overview, right? And by the way, we should probably can we show that second slide to show how it currently reads?
Yes, give me one moment, actually. Give me 1 second. Yeah, geez. Okay, and give people an an idea of why he's talking about so-called spiking the ball now,
right? So spiking the ball in the sense of the website changing its position somehow refutes those who disputed Hebrew or Amharic on the pews, those who were skeptical. The implication there was that that's the mic drop on the skeptics. Like you doubt that there's Hebrew or Amharic or is on the pews. Well, the website says it is. That's the whole thing. And that's what I'm saying. That was this inconsistency where when it was Arabic, he didn't feel that was a mic drop on the people who were skeptical about Arabic. He felt that the website still needs to prove its own claims. They should read out the alleged Arabic that they're claiming appears on the pews. But suddenly that rule goes out the window when it's saying something he likes. Right. And so this is how it currently reads. The website currently says that on the outside of some of the pews are Semitic languages, plural, that consist of cursive Hebrew, Ethiopian, Amharic Ge'ez, which is already a little bit confusing. Is it Ge'ez or is it Amharic or is it both? And this is my favorite phrase, ancient Amharic from the 1800s. The Orthodox Moor, shout out to the Orthodox Moor.
Ancient Aramaic.
Aramaic, yes. I was going to say credit to the Orthodox Moor. He was the first to point out that sounds like a contradiction. Is it ancient or is it from the 1800s? But whatever the case. Matter of fact, I have a Facebook post. If you could show it, I have a Facebook post that goes over the different positions that the website has taken over. Yes, here we go. So from 2011 all the way to 2017, and there's a link to this post in the description for anyone who wants to look it up. And once they're on the post, then they can check out these archived pages that I linked to. But back in 2011, all the way to 2017, this is what the website claimed. The pews located in the balcony are original to the church. These pews were made by slaves and are nailed into the floors. On the outside of the pews are markings written in the African dialect known as quote unquote cursive Hebrew. Now, it's not me adding quote unquote. They literally put cursive Hebrew in quotes, which is humorous. It's almost like the website at the time was distancing itself a little bit from the claim. But whatever the case, in May of 2018, they changed it to where it said these pews were made by the enslaved Africans and are nailed to the floors. On the outside of some of the pews are writings done in a classical West African Arabic script from the 1800s. And then it was actually 2021. You were right. In December of 2021, the website changed again. And now it says, and it said this since 2021, on the outside of some of the pews are Semitic languages that consist of cursive Hebrew, Ethiopian Amharic Ge'ez, and ancient Aramaic from the 1800s that's no longer spoken or written amongst modern Semitic languages. Really quick note, the reason why there's two portions highlighted, because ancient Aramaic from the 1800s is really awkward. And as I said, Orthodox Moor, the first one to point that out. But it seems that in haste or maybe in a state of not fully understanding the arguments, whoever updated the website nearly took out Arabic, West African Arabic script and then put in these other things. And that's why it previously said West African Arabic script from the 1800s, and now it says Ancient Aramaic from the 1800s. They left in from the 1800s. That's why it reads awkwardly like that. Either they changed it hastily, or they changed it in sort of a state where they didn't fully understand what precisely the arguments were. So there is a level of confusion that we see here, and that's part of the reason we wanted to show that. But more relevant to this discussion is the point that when the website changed, they were presented as independent, as if the website is an independent witness. And the good doctor and also some of his supporters on different parts of social media were literally claiming things like, they had their own scholars look at the pews, which is interesting because that's implying they had secret scholars, because the immediate question should be, which scholars, who, and what exactly did they see? Like even Kelly said when it was Arabic, well, if it's Arabic, or in this case, Amharic or Ge'ez or Aramaic, show us, read it to us, right? Present these alleged scholars' claims. But the reality is that the website is not an independent witness, separate from the good doctor. We're going to present the case that this change to the website was made under the influence of the good doctor and his cohort.
Indeed.
And so just as, and I already pointed out that just as Kelly said the alleged Arabic readings have to be demonstrated, I'm saying that so too the alleged Hebrew, Amharic, and Aramaic readings should be demonstrated. But this is where it gets more interesting. There's a gentleman named Kalani Starr, and great credit to Kalani Starr, right? And this gentleman went on the tour at the church, at First African Baptist Church,
right?
And he was allowed to photograph all the pews. And we'll put some links in the description to where people can find access to all the pews, the images and stuff like that. Orthodox Moreh has shown them. Shout out to Orthodox Moreh. And he took pictures of all the pews. But also, when the tour guide said that Hebrew appears on the pews, this gentleman, Mr. Starr, Kalani Starr, asked them which precise pew has Hebrew and how does it read? And if you could jump to the next slide. Well, yes. So he said that they showed him this pew as an example of a pew that has Hebrew on it, and they gave him basically this sentence. The text is recounted from his memory. He said the tour guide told him that in Hebrew, it says something along the lines of, beware those who cause trouble, because the master will whip or even kill you. He was told that complex of a sentence appears in Hebrew on this pew. And that's interesting, right? Honestly, if I can just be blunt, the claim is very hard to take seriously, right?
No, it's absurd.
One cannot possibly wrench those, that complex of a sentence from those markings, right? Something that could read along those lines. It's impossible, right?
Right.
Now, afterwards, this gentleman, Mr. Starr, Kalani Starr, he remained in contact with someone connected to the church, whether it's a tour guide or the director, and he was asking them how they arrived at their conclusion, right? That Hebrew appears on the pews. And so they sent him what they felt was their evidence in favor of their claim that was made during the tour. And if you could go to the next slide, this is what they sent him. They sent him screenshots. This is actually a compilation of 3 screenshots. They were vertical screenshots taken with a phone, but these are screenshots of some sort of private Zoom with the good Dr. Kelly Richardson and Benayah Israel. In other words, the church is making these extraordinary claims about complex sentences appearing on the pews. And when Kalani Starr asked them how they're reaching these conclusions, they showed him screenshots of private Zooms with Kelly Richardson and Benayah Israel. In other words, the church itself was basically saying they reached these conclusions under the influence of Kelly Richardson, which, as I said, we long suspected that the website was changed under the influence of Kelly Richardson. But now there are people who we know who have been explicitly told this by, members of the church, whether it's a tour guide or someone else connected to the church. So this conclusion was not reached independently.
Right. Right. Yeah. This, and let me just say this right now too. What I find significant about the fact that they were even doing Zoom meetings, we were so critical over the years from, 2019 onward, we were critical about their methodology, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, there were tons of videos pointing out their lack of pointing out a coherent phrase, which then eventually led to them, you know, creating. Remember the which you'll be bringing up later. You know, take a grasp of Yah Israel with a bass voice. That
Yes,
was
yeah, we'll show that they claimed entire sentences. They all kinds of things that went on. They, first,
yeah,
there were methodological questions, and I want to say I was very respectful out the gate, with them. And there were attempts to have me censored from forums. There were threats of litigation. Everything seemed motivated by a desire to shut down the conversations. Right? Then they started, in misrepresenting scholars. There was even an appeal to a fake scholar. Again, a lot of this is covered in Faithful's playlist, which will
yeah.
be linked to in the description.
Yeah, and by the way, for those who don't know, the fake scholar was a guy named Richard Katz. That
Yes.
was William Brown of Boone Church, Atlanta.
Before that, there was
Who we're
appeals
gonna
to
see,
secret grad students, all
who we're
sorts of
gonna
secret
who
scholars,
we're
secret
gonna see
grad students.
later. By the way, we're gonna see William Brown a little later, where
Yes.
he's gonna be pushing Benayah Israel's complex sentence that couldn't be demonstrated. Honestly,
And claiming a scholar found it.
yeah,
But whatever the case, the point is, the general
which was
theme,
found out to be false. By the way, the relevant scholar that they appealed to did not endorse that complex sentence.
yes, and
for
this
the
is
record.
discussed. So, but when they invoke scholars, whether it was the misrepresentation of a real scholar or literally fake scholars, it was always done in the sense of the conversation is over. A scholar has spoken. It's done. We're done, right? Stop, stop discussing it. Everything revolved around trying to shut the conversation down, whether it was censorship or threats of litigation or flagging videos or invoking scholars, misrepresenting scholars, fake scholars. All of it revolved around this desire to stop the conversation. They wanted people to just defer to them and not question it, not raise questions, not raise methodological questions. And what's relevant to that is, when the conversation, they did all that because they found an honest conversation on the subject too difficult. And that's why they started doing private presentations. We've long suspected, based on limited evidence, that they've been doing private presentations, right? Because people say, oh, Will Brown was vindicated. How? They can't say, right? But what happens is now we have clear evidence of like Zoom meetings in which they're, either watching presentations by Kelly or watching videos by them and stuff like that. So now the evidence is clear that there's like these private viewings, private presentations, and they took it private because they didn't want their arguments to be subjected to public scrutiny. That's really what I wanted to note here.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, if we could we go to the next slide?
Yes.
So then Kalani told me that one of his friends was also went on the tour, right? Now, we already have the answer regarding the alleged Hebrew, right? But his friend went on the tour and noted as a follow-up question, which pews have Amharic on them and how does it read? And what Kalani said is that the tour guide showed his friend these two pews as examples of pews that have Amharic on them. And they gave him basically the exact same sentence. They told him that these read in Amharic something along the lines of, beware those who cause trouble, the master will whip you or even kill you, etc. That, that sort of complex Amharic sentence appears on these two pews. This is what Kalani Starr's friend was saying he was told.
And if we just go back for a moment. This was the alleged Hebrew with the same
English translation, alleged English translation.
Alleged translation. And then this one was claimed to be these pews were alleged to be a different language, but with the same English translation, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. The tour guides. Now, I want to say this. I'm not accusing the tour guides of lying. I want to say this clear. I'm not accusing them of lying. I would say the claims they're making are baseless and false, but I think the tour guide who's saying these things is saying such sincerely, but the precise arguments that he's received are fuzzy in his own mind, right? He knows that there's some sort of sentence that was given to him, and there was some sort of argument for Hebrew and Amharic and stuff like that on the pews, but he can't really put it all together. So he just sort of on the fly says, oh, I think it's these pews, or I think it's that pew, and then winds up giving the same sort of sentence, alluding to the same complex sentence. And again, I don't think I wouldn't accuse him of lying, because that would entail conscious and deliberate falsehood. I think this person is merely under the influence of the good doctor's bad arguments. That's the way I would put it. And
the evidence that the relevant tour guide gave was the screenshots from this Zoom meeting. So, in other words, could we say confidently that it's, if you look at the You know,
Well,
you
let me
see,
say this. So
even though these aren't the same pews that we looked at, but the idea that's being presented, right? The idea of if we could just go back for a second, this right
yes.
here, this alleged English translation
So let me say
is
this. Kelly
yeah,
may be telling them about insipidity, and they're not fully processing that because Kelly also has claims about insipidity.
yeah,
But they may not be fully processing that, and so in the blur of their mind, they might be mixing his claims about it because it's all honestly Kelly's arguments are confused, which is
yeah,
precisely why he takes it out of the public discourse, out of the public eye. But
right,
because his arguments are confused, those who simply trust him and defer to him, they might not fully understand and be able to parse out a reference to insipidity from a reference to Hebrew, from a reference to is, and so it might all blur together in their mind, and that's how they're arriving at these complex sentences, or
yeah,
vaguely alluded to complex sentences.
right,
Yeah.
right,
So I think probably from what was shown in these private Zoom meetings also included his vague allusions to insipidity and stuff like that, and everything's
right,
blurring together.
right, right, right.
But
Okay.
nonetheless, if we could show there's the thing from Licia Clifton-James. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Yes. So this was put in a book, and it was also put in an article that's on Academia, and these are both linked to in the video description. But this is from Licia Clifton-James, and she writes about a bunch of different things. But in this excerpt, she's writing about what is claimed about the pews, and she mentions that a local Savannah historian connected to the church, Karen Wortham, had presented a claim way back in, I think, 2018 about what allegedly appears in the pews. And you see a number of things underlined. So here's a sentence that Karen Wortham apparently attributed to the pews back in 2018, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. And it reads, this is the bottom underline, to secure a desired harvest, to enter a pathway into a household. Now, again, that's a very, very complex sentence. So to claim that somewhere on the pews is a string of Hebrew characters that's so complex that it can be translated to secure a desired harvest, to enter a pathway into a household, that's an incredible claim. That's an extraordinary claim that no one can back up. And no one in the last decade has made any attempt, not the Good Doctor, not anyone else, to support that claim, right? It's apparently made in a DVD or something like that. This is what Licia Clifton-James says, that Karen Wortham made this claim, but no one has attempted to defend it. So basically, you have the situation where you have an English sentence that's allegedly a translation of a Hebrew sentence, but you're never shown the actual Hebrew sentence. And if we could, can you set up that third clip where
Yes.
Will Brown does the same thing, basically? So
Yes.
as he gets this clip ready, this was back in November of 2020, where the Good Doctor's cousin, Pastor Majors, as he's known, he's the person who runs the Boom Church Atlanta channel, or Boom Church channel on YouTube. He had this once very popular YouTube show or YouTube panel discussion in which it was claimed that a scholar had confirmed an entire sentence on a pew.
And if I could, real quick, and before we play this, I just want to point out, this is also the guy that we expose for pretending to be a Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor by the name of Richard Katz.
Yeah.
Precisely because of this incident, because this incident blew up in his face where he claimed
we found out. We showed that he misrepresented the scholar that he claimed confirmed this entire sentence.
David Bunis.
Yes, and so he immediately transitioned to saying, "Oh, we got another scholar, and this second scholar, the emails from the second scholar said everything that they would want a scholar to say, and we come to find out that the emails, they seemed to pretty clearly be forgeries, and everybody." There was a slow motion vindication.
And it was William Brown pretending to be a Tel Aviv-based professor, precisely because he didn't have a professor, the Solitero professor, David Bunis, that he tried to misuse, backfired on him. He ended up just inventing a professor, pretending to be a professor, and then that backfired on him, and then that's when everything spiraled. But anyways, this relevant clip is during the time that they were still claiming
the pre-Katz era. When he was claiming David Bunis confirmed an entire Hebrew sentence on a pew, and here's the English translation of that alleged sentence.
And this is relevant to show that this idea of complex sentences, while no one has ever pointed to a relevant pew to demonstrate this, or when they have, it's not there. In the case of Benayah, where he saw a few characters, and then that, and this elaborate phrase is then drawn out of this thing. You'll see in a moment, y'all. We'll play it in a second. Here it is.
not only does it say is take a grasp of God, but it said take a grasp of Yah or God Israel with a bass voice, as you put it, or with a loud voice, meaning praise him loudly. That's what this means.
All right. And so the reason we showed that is think about all the complex sentences. So you have maybe close to a decade ago, or maybe slightly more, but let's say close to a decade ago, you have Karen Wortham showing that sentence about, yeah, exactly, to secure a desired harvest, to enter a pathway. Then you have Will Brown claiming that there's a sentence that says, take a grasp of Yah with a bass voice, and that a scholar backed it up. And now we have the tour guides saying, that there's not only Hebrew, but also Amharic sentences that translate roughly to beware those who cause trouble, the master will whip or even kill you, or something along those lines, right? So over and over and over again, like for over a decade, we have the situation where people are claiming they're pretending to provide English translations of very complex sentences, whether it be Hebrew sentences or Amharic sentences, but they're never pointing to the actual Amharic or, Hebrew, or in this case, in some cases, Amharic sentence itself. You're just expected to accept the English translation, by itself. Without seeing the text allegedly behind the English translation. But I guess with that, we might go to the summary. All right. You want to read through this?
The whole time I was talking, I didn't. So what? Yeah. Somebody had pointed out that was me, man. I was trying to switch over my mic. No, real quick, if we could just very briefly just. So the whole idea is that they'll claim that there's this complex sentence and then never actually demonstrate it. So it's basically just trust me, bro, scholarship. Yeah, just trust me, bro. Take my word for it.
It's a decade-long pattern too, from the DVD with Karen Wortham that was described by Licia Clifton-James, to Will Brown, to now the tour guides. They're giving different sentences in English, alleged English translations of very complex sentences, without showing the alleged sentences that are behind those English translations. But I want to say this. I am not accusing Karen Wortham of deception, and I'm not accusing the tour guides of deception. I think they're making these claims sincerely. Someone is feeding them information, and it's sort of in their minds vaguely, and they're sincerely reporting what they recall someone else saying. That's what I think is going on here. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not accusing Karen Wortham.
And I would agree with Abu. I agree with Abu's assessment. Now, if I could, let me go ahead and read the closing summary, if we could. So, point number 1. The First African Baptist Church website has made a number of shifts in what it claims appears on the pews, from Hebrew to Arabic, and then the Hebrew, Amharic, and quote-unquote ancient Aramaic from the 1800s. Second point. When Kelly didn't like the website claiming Arabic, he rightly noted that even the website should demonstrate their claims. However, when the website switched to Hebrew, Amharic, and Aramaic, suddenly Kelly and his crowd acted as though the website should be treated as an independent witness, and that it should be taken on faith that the website reached its current position from a private consultation with secret scholars, which we now know is probably not likely the case, right? Number 3, the reality is that the website changed under the influence of Kelly Richardson and Benayah Israel, and those two men cannot back up the claims that they got. Cannot back up the claims they got the website administrator to accept. Their arguments were presented in private precisely because they knew they could not stand up to public scrutiny. And the 4th point, there is a long and unfortunate trend of giving English translations of alleged complex sentences without transcribing the alleged sentences themselves, or, in this case, pointing to the relevant pew and saying this is it, and then showing how the relevant pew is creating this complex sentence.
Yeah, exactly. They're not. Yeah, that's why we say transcribe. Like, if you feel there's a complex sentence there, because I don't see it, can you point out what the precise sentence is, the precise string of characters that give such a complex sentence. That's never done for these really complex English translations that have done, and that's suspicious. And it's unfortunate that it's gone on like this for roughly a decade.
Indeed. And I imagine that it'll probably keep going on for longer, the way that these guys are going, because they seem to create elaborate. Can I say this? I want to be careful. An elaborate ruse, if you will. You know, could we be fair to say that this is a bit of a elaborate ruse?
At best, the most charitable thing I could say is maybe it's cognitive dissonance for them. Like maybe they sincerely believe what they're pushing, but there's a part of their mind that knows that their arguments can't stand up to public scrutiny, and that's why they they try to present it in private. But here's the thing. When you're presenting claims as true in private, even though while it's private, it's shielded from public scrutiny, the people that you're convincing, if they sincerely believe it, eventually they're going to bring it to others and it's going to come out into the public. And so the question arises, like, how are you arriving at these complex sentences? And the honest answer is they're all baseless. All the sentences that have been presented for Hebrew and now Amharic, they're all baseless. There is no discernible Amharic on any pew, nor has anyone made any attempt, right? And this is the whole thing. The whole idea of Amharic on a pew, the real argument, they're not going to say this out loud, but this is the real argument. The argument is there are certain markings that vaguely resemble individual Ge'ez characters, and Amharic is a language written in the Ge'ez script. Therefore, Amharic appears on the pews. But you can't get from that bad argument to a complex Amharic sentence. Like, for example, there are markings that resemble Latin characters, the characters that we use for a number of European languages. And let's say Spanish or Romanian or Albanian is written in the Latin script, but that doesn't mean that you can arrive at a complex sentence in Spanish or Latin or Romanian or Croatian or Albanian, right? There's a huge leap that's being made. And so there's the arguments for Hebrew, that was the strongest effort they made, were incredibly weak, and no effort was made whatsoever to provide any Amharic or Aramaic, nothing. So yeah, it's unfortunate that they brought their bad arguments to the private sphere, and the people associated with the church sincerely believe it and are passing it on to others. One thing I'll say, one irony that I don't think we really touched on this is the good doctor changed his position on Aramaic. You notice in that first clip we played, he was also angry about the church, possibly because he had heard a rumor. He had said this in one of his videos back in 2018, that he had heard a rumor they were going to also claim Aramaic. And that's why he was saying, if you're going to say it's Aramaic, then read it to me. But then when he became more receptive to the idea of Aramaic on a pew, then it was presented as, oh, look, the church says Aramaic. Yeah, boom, mic drop, got him. Or Sista, he said, oops, whoops.
By the way, and since we're talking about whoops moments and got 'ems, I think you'll concur, while you feel skeptical of language overall.
Yes.
The case for Arabic still remains the strongest and makes the most amount of sense relevant to the cultural dynamic that existed in Savannah.
On every metric. I'll say this. And by the way, thank you for bringing this up, because I don't think I would have thought to bring this up. Yes. While even I remain somewhat skeptical about Arabic on the pews, I think that the case for Arabic is far stronger than the case for Hebrew. And of course, it's stronger than the case for Ge'ez or Amharic or Aramaic, because no case has been presented for those languages, right? So it's far stronger, and it's stronger on every single metric. Like, for example, originally they were claiming that if a scholar makes a claim, then you should just defer to it. Right now, they dropped that rule. They abandoned that rule. But there are scholars who claim there's Arabic on the pews, right? Who felt that there was Arabic on the pews.
And if I could be just on that point, real quick, not only scholars, but like creme de la creme scholars like Jeffrey Kahn, the Hebrew chair of Cambridge University, emphatically saying it is Arabic, it is not Hebrew, like emphatically saying that. Or for example, Boubacar Diakite, the Harvard linguist, where he endorses the
portions of the Shahada. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then even scholars that took a tentative position,
Samad Ali, yeah,
exactly.
And so that's what's interesting here is, so they originally said, oh, the scholars have spoken, defer to them, right? Then they dropped that. Then they tried to say, well, there are certain scholars that are skeptical about Arabic on a pew. Like, for example, I forget his name now. The one that they invoked, the Moroccan gentleman who's, I think he goes from a university in Georgia. His name escapes me now. But also Gudarzi. I was the one who brought out Mohsen Gudarzi is skeptical about Arabic on the pews. They brought that out. But the thing is, hold on, wait, I want to get this point out.
It wasn't Yusuf Ali, right? It was the
no. I think his name is Yusuf, but it doesn't matter. But the point is, there are scholars who are skeptical about Arabic. So their new thing is, they originally said, well, once a scholar affirms a language, bang, that's done, right? The argument's over. But then once that's could be shown for Arabic, all of a sudden they dropped that rule. So their new rule was, well, once a scholar is skeptical or a professor is skeptical about a language, then that language is disqualified. But here's the problem. There's multiple professors that are skeptical about Hebrew on the pews. For example, Richard Saracen said he doesn't think any Hebrew appears on the pews. And then Kelly had a secret scholar, someone who he called Shaul or something like that, who told him that he literally wrote in the email that Kelly showed, not English, Kelly or Brown, whoever it was that emailed this professor. He said, not Hebrew, he put, not Hebrew, with exclamation point.
Yeah, with exclamation point.
If a professor being skeptical disqualifies a language, then Hebrew is disqualified. But they don't have consistent standards. But now here's another thing why Arabic is stronger. They also tried to say, well, don't look at the markings. Like they even convinced the director of the church to say this. Don't look at the markings themselves. Go by the historical context. Well, if we go by the historical context, there is lots of evidence of Arabic written by slaves in the Americas, and not just the Americas in general. Like, for example, we can point to people writing portions of the Quran in Haiti and Brazil and other places, even in the southern United States, even in Georgia and North Carolina or South Carolina, whatever it is, in the southern United States in the same century, you see people not only writing Hebrew, sometimes writing the same Arabic, not Hebrew, Arabic, not only Arabic in general, but specific texts that are also being claimed for the pews, like portions of Surat An-Nas. So on every metric they tried to present, Arabic was stronger on the metrics that they insisted on. And that's why they've tried to shut down public conversation. They don't want public dialogue on this subject. They want to be able to just present it in private, so that way there's no pushback. And indeed, I think that sums it up.
Yes, that's really good. That is really good. And I imagine that, we'll get radio silence from that side, but
for a time, but eventually it's going to come back. It's going to circle back, because the thing is, they're trying to tell people in private, but eventually the people they tell in private are going to bring it back to the public.
Yep. Hopefully.
So that's the whole point of these videos.
Wait for it. Oops.
Yeah, that's what's gonna. Yeah, exactly. Eventually, they're going to be silent on this, because they don't want to have this conversation. But the whole point is to create these videos to have as a resource, so for those who are sincerely interested could see the other side of the story. And we have a very detailed and developed resource across multiple channels. And when it comes back out and people start discussing it in public again, whether it's 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now, once again, like you said, oops.
That's right. Wait. Correct. And on that note, I think we'll end it here. I appreciate everybody who listened to this, and hopefully those who will listen in the future. And I hope that Kelly and his side get their act together, and maybe they can start operating with the spirit of sincerity rather than, the nonsense that's been going on over the past few years. And so on that note, my friend Abu, I appreciate you for being here and sharing this. And I really hope that people, on that side get their act together for real. So we're going to end it here. God bless you all. I hope this has edified someone out there. And until next time, take care. God bless you.